Samidoun is now designated as a terrorist group, both in Canada and in the United States.
We have been working with the security services for an extended period of time. Nothing happens in this world within a week. Even a joint announcement with Canada and the United States doesn't happen within a week. These things take time to process. And
the listing comes as Vancouver police investigate a rally organized by the pro-Palestinian group, where speakers, quote, expressed solidarity with terrorist groups. Christian Lobrecht is a professor at the Royal Military College and Queen's University. He's also the author of the book Security, Cooperation, Governance, and he is joining us this morning from Kingston. Good morning.
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
So the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs has called for Samidoun to be listed as a terrorist group dating back to 2020. Germany banned the group a year ago. Why is Canada designating Samidoun as a terrorist organization now?
Well, we're rather slow on our terrorist listing process. On average, it takes about 10 years to list a terrorist organization in this country. So you might argue that 4 years for Canada is actually a relatively quick turnaround. But of course, we know that the government has come under political pressure. We know about the rally in Vancouver with chants that would be more similar to things that you might hear at a rally of the mullahs in Tehran. And so this shows that, you know, if you keep pushing the envelope far enough, even in Canada, eventually the government will act.
The title of Samidoun came to most Canadians' attention after this rally in Vancouver, where it was chanted death to Canada, death to the United States, and death to Israel. But what other activities has Samidoun been involved with on Canadian soil?
So the listing suggests that there are concerns about essentially the organization aiding and abetting and providing material support for a terrorist organization. In that case, that is the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Samidoun has never really made much of a secret about not just its broader purpose in the region, but its particular affiliation with the group. Khaled Barakat, one of the key individuals in Vancouver, has long been identified as a senior member of the PFLP, and as partner Charlotte Cates, an American who also somehow obtained residency in Canada. It is not clear how both those individuals obtained residency, has a long history of not just anti-Zionism, but justifying right back to her days as a teenager and subsequently as a student at Rutgers, suicide bombings, as well as the hijacking of airplanes. Those of us who are old enough will remember the 1970s and 80s hijackings. Those were largely carried out by the PFLP. So it is not just puzzling how these two individuals were able to continue to operate in Canada after having been banned from multiple key allies, including the United States and the European Union, but it's also puzzling how they ever obtained residency, given that both of them, or were even deemed admissible, given that both of them has a long history of both advocating violent extremism and advocating, aiding and abetting extremist violence.
We've seen this designation be given to other groups in Canada in the past few decades, but what does it mean specifically for this group and for its members?
So concretely, it means that the group is designated as an entity that provides support to a listed terrorist organization, which means any activities that you might engage in that supports this group, that provides material support to this group, that, for instance, you might donate to this group, you would now be subject to prosecution under the criminal code for providing material support to terrorism. But more broadly, it's also about drawing clear lines. Many people might be unsure about organizations they might be wanting to support that provide, for instance, charitable help for the humanitarian catastrophe in the Middle East. And so this clearly suggests and shows Canadians that this is not a group that anybody in Canada should be affiliating with, because you will be subject to criminal prosecution. It also sends a broader signal to other groups that are very much on the boundary of the illegal or criminality in terms of what they advocate and the causes that they engage with, that this type of activity ultimately in Canada cannot be accepted. Of course, what's troubling is that there are a number of such groups in this country, and it seems to take these individuals get into the country and then continue to be able to operate.
Yeah, you said a number of them. There's 78 in total, in fact, organizations listed as terrorist groups under the criminal code. How then do national security agencies enforce this designation? Like, what comes along with that, Christian?
So this is a fantastic question because the government keeps on growing the group, but it doesn't actually grow resources. To the contrary, the RCMP this year was subjected to the same sort of budget cut that other organizations are subjected to. The RCMP spends 85% of its resources, its time, and its people doing contract policing, and the RCMP is significantly short-staffed. So what this means is effectively we've now added additional work to the RCMP for investigations that are very long, very onerous, very complex, but we haven't actually given additional resources to the organization. The integrated national security enforcement teams are sort of at the forefront of running these types of investigations that you've been seeing in the news when it comes to national security concerns. But in practice, it means that the resourcing and the posture that this country has when it comes to national security is simply not fit for the 21st century.
Christian Lobrecht, thank you for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.